The space station of Kurna 7 was always full of noise, strange smells, and deals made in dark corners. Humans were rare here, and even more rare were friendly faces. But the human trader just called the Earthman by locals had stopped. Here for fuel and food. He didn't like gambling, but tonight he was bored, tired, and alone. He walked into the smoky room with blinking neon signs, tables made from old ship parts, and aliens of all shapes sitting around with glowing cards and colored chips. An old alien with wrinkled skin and 4 eyes waved him over. "Join us, human. We play for fun." The human smiled, thinking, what could go wrong? It's just a game. He sat down, learned the rules quickly, and started playing. At first, he lost, then won, then lost again. But he didn't care. It was passing time. The crowd around the table grew larger, watching in silence as the pile of chips grew taller in front of him. The alien who had invited him called Jarnik. A local merchant smiled too wide. "Final round," he said. "High stakes." The human nodded. "All right, but I have nothing left to bet." Jarnik laughed, showing sharp teeth. "I will bet something instead." Everyone leaned in. The air grew still. "If you win," Jarnik said, "you get my greatest treasure." The human frowned. "What kind of treasure?" Jarnik only said, "Ancient tradition. Earthmen, you'll see." The cards were dealt. Moments later, the human laid down his hand, and the room went completely silent. Jarnik looked down at his cards and sighed. "You have one." Before the human could smile, Jarnik raised his hand and said something in his alien tongue. From the shadows stepped a young alien girl, her skin smooth and copper gold, her eyes large and glowing faintly. She wore simple robes and stood with her hands folded. "This is my daughter," Jarnik said quietly. "You have won her." The human blinked, shocked. "What? No, I didn't agree to that." "You didn't have to," Jarnik replied. "The game follows the law of holds, and so do I." The girl said nothing. Her eyes met the human's for only a second before she looked down again. "This isn't right," the human said, standing. "I don't own anyone." Jarnik stepped closer, voice serious now. "You do not own her, but she belongs to you now, as per tradition." The crowd around them murmured, many nodding, others whispering in their alien languages. "Refusing her would mean great shame to my house," Jarnik said. "It would also bring death to her." The human was frozen, mind racing. The girl finally spoke, her voice soft. "Please, I do not wish to die." The human sighed deeply. What does accepting you mean?" Jarnik answered. "You must take her with you, care for her, and let her serve as part of your house, your crew, your family." The human looked at the girl again, so still, so quiet, but not afraid, only waiting. "Do I have a choice?" he asked. Jarnik nodded. "You can walk away, but her fate is sealed if you do." The human rubbed his forehead. "This is insane," he muttered. "I came here for fuel, not for someone's daughter." "You played," Jarnik said calmly. "You won." The crowd stepped back as the human slowly nodded. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no, and that was enough for now. The girl quietly followed him as he left the table, her steps light, almost soundless, back on his ship. He sat on the bench near the engine room. The girl sat across from him. He looked at her, unsure of what to say. She looked back with those glowing eyes and said in a calm voice, "My name is not important until you choose to keep me. Keep you." The human asked, "Like a pet? Like a slave?" "No," she said, "like someone who now belongs to your story." That night, the human didn't sleep much. His mind kept repeating the words, "You won her. She's yours. She'll die if you say no." He looked at her one more time before. Lights dimmed. She was sitting on the floor near the engine, not afraid, not sad, just waiting. Somehow, he knew this was not the end of the strange night. It was only the beginning. The bet shouldn't have happened, but now it had. And the galaxy wouldn't be the same again. The girl didn't ask for a room, a bed, or even food. She just sat near the engine, her legs crossed, hands resting calmly on her lap, eyes half closed like she was meditating. The human walked past her 3 times before finally speaking. "You can sit somewhere more comfortable." She looked up slowly and said, "Comfort is not needed unless you decide to keep me." That sentence kept bothering him. He grabbed 2 food packs, tossed one to her, and said, "Eat, no rules needed for that." She caught the pack easily, but didn't eat it. Instead, she asked, "Is this a command or kindness?" The human sighed, "It's food. Just eat." Finally, she opened it and ate without a word. Slowly, carefully, like it was a ritual. Later that day, he tried asking more. "What's your name?" "I am not allowed to share it unless I'm truly accepted," she answered softly. "In our law, giving a name before acceptance is a false bond." He frowned. "That's ridiculous. It is ancient," she replied. "Not ridiculous to my people." He sat across from her on the cold metal floor, watching her movements calm, graceful, trained. "You don't act scared," he said finally. "Why?" She looked at him directly for the first time, because fear will not change anything. There was a weight in her voice, too heavy for someone who looked so young. "I don't want someone forced into this," he said. "This whole situation feels wrong." "I was not forced," she replied. "My father placed the bet, but I agreed long ago." "What?" The human blinked. "You knew this might happen." "Yes," she said. "Every daughter of his must prepare for the possibility. Some become trade goods, some warriors, some are lost in dishonor. I chose to prepare for all outcomes." He felt something cold in his chest, not from space, but from what she had said so easily, like it was just a fact of life. "Why didn't you run?" he asked. "There's nowhere to run where the law does not follow," she replied. "At least with you. I see curiosity, not cruelty." The ship hummed as it passed through light space. The stars outside stretched into lines, but inside the ship, time moved slowly. "All right," he said finally. "If you're going to stay here, at least learn what we do." She nodded. "I am ready for the next few days." He showed her the ship system's navigation. Food processors, comms, repair tools. She watched closely, learned fast, and didn't speak unless spoken to. She memorized every button, every function, every tool. Faster than any trainee he had seen. One morning, he found her cleaning the air vents. Without asking, without being told. "I noticed they were collecting dust," she said calmly. "It affects breathing." "You're not a servant," he said. "You don't need to do this." "I know," she replied. "But serving gives me peace and value." That hit him hard. He didn't want her to feel like she needed to earn her right to stay alive. But every time he tried to loosen her role, she responded with, "I must earn your decision." He didn't know if it was sad or strong, nor maybe both. That evening, he gave her a spare jumpsuit, size too big, but it was better than robes. She held it carefully and said, "This is the first human clothing I've touched." "You'll need it if you're going to walk around on Earth stations," he said. "Will I ever see Earth?" she asked, voice soft, eyes hopeful. "Maybe." He shrugged. "Depends if this whole situation makes sense." She folded the jumpsuit and placed it near her sleeping mat. "Then I hope I do well." Later, a message pinged on his Kamzan alert from the local council of the outpost. A reminder: cycle ends in 6 days. Decision must be made, accept or release. He stared at the screen, then looked toward the engine room, where she sat, meditating again. She had no name, no real place in his world. But somehow, the ship already felt different with her there. Not heavier, not colder, but more alive, like something hidden was quietly watching, waiting. She wasn't just an alien girl, one in a bet. She was someone shaped by duty, trained by pressure, and now, standing on the edge of an unknown life. And he was the one holding the choice. He turned off the screen, walked toward her, and asked gently, "Would you like to learn how to fly this ship?" She opened her eyes and nodded once. That nod said everything. The spaceport was quiet that morning, but the silence felt heavy outside the human's ship. A pair of alien council guards stood like statues, watching, not blinking, not smiling, inside. The ship, the girl sat in the pilot's chair, her fingers hovering over the controls. "You remember what this does?" The human asked, pointing at a glowing lever. "Stabilize her balance," she said softly. "Red means error. Green means safe." He nodded, impressed. "You learn fast." She gave the smallest smile, but said nothing more. Then the comms lit up in. Incoming message. He opened it on screen, and a serious voice spoke, "Human pilot. You must attend the council hall within the hour. Final review of your holding." He stared at the screen. Feeling the weight of the words, she stood up slowly. "They want to know if you've accepted me." "I haven't made a decision yet," he replied. "That is why they are watching." She said quietly, "They watch how you treat me, how I move on your ship, how you speak to me. It all becomes part of their judgment." He frowned. "That's creepy." "No," she said. "That is law, that is tradition." He sighed. "Fine. Let's go see what they want." At the council chamber, the room was dim and circular, lined with high-ranking aliens in robes, their eyes glowing different colors. The girl stood one step behind the human, her head bowed, silent. A council elder spoke. Voice slow and deep. "Human, we observe, we record, we wait." Another added, "You have walked with her, shared food, taught skills, yet no acceptance has been spoken." The human answered carefully. "I didn't ask for this. I never agreed to take someone's daughter, yet you want her," the elder said. "The law does not care for intention, only action. She is not a slave." The human said, "And I don't treat her like one. That is clear." The elder nodded, "Which is why we are still patient." The girl stepped forward slightly and said softly, "May I speak?" The room went silent. Then a nod gave permission. She raised her head, her voice calm and strong. "This human has not hurt me, has not ordered me like property. He teaches me, allows me to choose, and even asks what I want." The council members shifted slightly, some surprised, others expressionless, but he has not accepted. One counselor said, "Not fully." "What does fully mean?" the human asked, growing annoyed. Another elder answered, "You must introduce her with a chosen name. You must declare her part of your crew, and you must show it publicly, like a ceremony." He asked, "Yes." The elder said, "You have her days left." Back on the ship, the human paced back and forth. "This is insane," he muttered. "They're making me do a space marriage with someone I just met." The girl stood quietly near the wall, listening, not interrupting. He looked at her. "Do you want me to accept you?" "Honestly." She paused, then nodded. "I don't want to die, but more than that, I want to be part of something real." "Why me?" he asked. "I'm just a trader, not a warrior, not a noble. You didn't throw me away," she said. "That alone makes you rare." Her words struck something deep inside him. He didn't say anything for a long time, just stared at the star map on the screen. Later that night, someone sent a message to the ship no name. "Just a warning, accept her and make enemies." He stared at the screen, jaw tight. She read it from behind him and whispered, "They do not want me to be free." He turned to her. "Why?" "My bloodline," she said. "My father used to have power. Old enemies still watch. If I accept you," he said slowly, "they'll come after both of us." She nodded. "Yes." He leaned back in his seat and laughed bitterly. "This just keeps getting better. She didn't laugh, only asked, "Will you still teach me flight tomorrow?" He looked at her long and hard, then said, "Yeah, course." The next day, as she took control of the ship under his watch, he noticed something strange. She was smiling, not big, not wide, but real, like it was the first time in years. That smile stayed with him, even as the station guards followed their ship from a distance. The rules were watching, yes, but so was something else. Now trust, and trust was a dangerous thing in a place built on deals and debts. The warning came in the form of a broken panel. The human had only stepped away for 5 minutes, but when he returned to the control room, one of the ship's stabilizers had been tampered. With it wasn't just damage, it was a message. Someone wanted him to know. They could reach him, and they didn't want the girl on his ship. He repaired the damage quickly, his hands moving fast, but his mind racing even faster. "Someone was inside while we were docked," he said, staring at the wires. They knew where to hit. The girl stood behind him quietly. "They will not stop," she said. "There are those who feel I should never have left my house, not like this. What do they want?" The human asked, "Your return or your silence?" "Both," she said. "They wanted me given to another." He turned to her. "Another suitor." She nodded. "He is called Ralzak. He was promised the right to challenge for me, but my father ignored him, said tradition no longer mattered. And then he lost me in a game." The human sat down heavily. "Let me guess, Ralzak's not the forgiving type." "No," she said. "He is proud, violent, and hungry for status. And now, to him, you are a thief." That same night, the knock came, not on the door but on the hall. Loud and sharp, like a fist made of steel, the human opened the outer hatch with a rifle in hand. But what stood there wasn't a group, only one figure, Ralzak, tall and broad. His armor red and black like dried blood, with a cloak made of scaled fabric that shimmered like fire. "You," Ralzak growled, his voice deep and rough. "I came for what's mine." The human kept the rifle low, but ready. "If you're looking for your pride, I think you lost that already." Ralzak's eyes narrowed. "You mock me, Earth thing?" "I mock those who come uninvited," the human replied. "What do you want?" Ralzak pointed behind him. "She belongs with me, not some dirt-born traitor from a dead-end planet." The girl stepped into view, standing beside the human, her voice calm but firm. "I do not belong to you, and never did." Ralzak laughed, low and cruel. "You were promised." "No," she said. "My father owed you nothing, and neither do I." Ralzak bared his teeth. "Then I challenge him." The human raised an eyebrow. "Challenge me? To what, exactly?" "Combat," Ralzak said. "By the rules of the ancient accord. One fight, no weapons but hands. Winner claims her fate." The human looked at the girl. "Is this real?" She nodded slowly. "It's old law. If you accept, you must finish it. There is no mercy, no stopping." He looked at Ralzak again. "Fine," he said. "But we do it my way outside, in the landing pit, under station lights, in front of your so-called witnesses." Ralzak grinned. "So be it." The next hour passed in silence. Word spread through the station like fire, and by the time the humans stepped into the circle marked by lights, dozens of aliens surrounded them, watching from every level of the station balconies. The girl stood with the council, her eyes locked on him, silent, still. Ralzak entered with heavy steps, stretching his arms, cracking his knuckles like hammers. Bell rang, a sharp metal sound that echoed through the space. Ralzak lunged first, fists like stone, swinging with fury. But the human ducked, moved fast, not with brute strength, but with strategy, speed, and skill learned in old war drills and dirty cargo brawls. Ralzak roared, charged again, but the human sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and used the alien's own weight to throw him hard to the ground. The crowd gasped, some hissed, others cheered. Ralzek rose, bleeding from his lip, and came again, more angry than smart. The human blocked, dodged, slipped between hits like smoke, and then with one strong push, he sent Ralzek crashing into the side railing, where he fell and didn't rise again. The bell rang twice. Silence. Then the council elder raised a hand and spoke. "It is done." The girl ran forward, but didn't hug him. Not yet. She bowed, as was custom, and then whispered, "You didn't fight to win me. You fought to protect me." He looked at her, breathing heavy, bruises forming, and said, "Same thing, maybe," that night, as the crowd disappeared and Ralzek was carried away by his own followers. Something changed. The girl no longer sat in the corner of the ship. She stood beside him, like she truly belonged there. And the whispers across the station began of a human who challenged old laws, and won not just a fight, but respect. The duel was over. But the danger was not. Whispers floated through the station like smoke, soft and poisonous. Some said the human cheated. Others said he used strange tactics, and some claimed the girl used old magic to protect him. But none of that was true. He won because he was clever, calm, and didn't fight like the others expected. Still, not everyone liked the outcome. That night, while the girl cleaned a tool set near the cargo bay, she stopped suddenly, her nose twitching slightly. She stood still, sniffed again, and then called out, "Don't eat that." The human had just opened a food packet and was about to take a bite. He paused. "What?" She walked over quickly, took the packet from his hands, and sniffed it closely. "There's something wrong," she whispered. "Too much sweet salt. That's how poison is hidden in food like this." He frowned, took a small scanner, and ran it across the food. The light blinked red. Poison detected. He stared at it in disbelief. "How did you know?" She looked up at him, her eyes serious. "I grew up watching every step, every meal, every shadow. You don't survive in my father's house without learning these things." He sat down slowly, the packet still in his hand. "Someone wants me dead now?" She nodded. "They failed to beat you in the duel, so now they try from the dark." He laughed without humor. "Great, I win one fight. Now I've got 100 enemies." "No," she said, "not 100. Just one who hides well." For the next 2 days, they stayed inside the ship, only stepping out for supplies. Always alert, always watching. She never left his side. And he started noticing how different she was now. She wasn't just quiet anymore. She was alert, sharp, focused. He realized something else too. He was starting to trust her with his life. One evening, while checking the ship's outer panels, he noticed a small device near the landing struts. He picked it up, turned it over. In his hand was a tracker. Someone was planning to follow them, or worse, find them when they were alone in space. He crushed the device in his palm and dropped the pieces. "They want us gone," he said. She stepped beside him. "Then we stay." He looked at her, surprised. "I thought you'd want to leave as soon as possible." She shook her head. "Leaving doesn't solve everything. Sometimes standing your ground shows them you're not afraid." He smirked. "You sound more human than most humans I know." She smiled, for real this time. Not small, not forced. Just honest. Later that night, a message came from the council, short and clear. "You have 2 days left to make your decision." He stared at the words for a long time. The girl stood behind him, waiting, but not asking. He turned to her. "If I don't accept you, what will happen?" She answered quietly. "I will be taken to the exile barge, marked as dishonored, and left to survive on my own." He clenched his jaw because of a game I didn't even understand. "Yes," she said, "but your choice still matters." He stood and paced. "This isn't fair to you. Or to me." She looked at him gently. fair or not, it is real. The next morning, she did something new. She cooked breakfast Earth style. Eggs and flatbread using the station's limited ingredients. He blinked in surprise as she placed the plate in front of him. "Where did you learn this?" "I studied your culture files last night," she said. "I thought you might miss home food." He looked at her for a long moment, then finally sat and took a bite. It was simple but warm, and filled with quiet care. After eating, he stood and said, "Come on, I want to show you something." They walked through the lower maintenance level of the station, where old star maps and trading banners hung on the walls. He pointed to one symbol etched into the metal. "That's my family crest, not royal or anything, just old." She touched the symbol gently. "It's beautiful." He looked at her and said, "Back on Earth, we give people our family emblem when they become part of us." She froze, then whispered, "You mean? Like bonding?" "Something like that," he said, then added, "I haven't decided yet. But I'm thinking." Her eyes shone with something close to hope. But she stayed quiet that night. She placed something on the table in front of him, her robe, neatly folded, and beneath it, a tiny carved stone. "What's this?" he asked. "My old family token," she said, "if you do accept me. That is all I bring." He picked up the stone and felt its smooth surface. Cold at first, but warming in his hand. He looked at her, and for the first time, didn't see just an alien girl. He saw someone who had been shaped by fear, but carried dignity, loyalty, and quiet strength. The whispers would continue, and so would the danger, but the decision. It was getting closer now, and it was starting to feel less like a burden, and more like fate. The final message came early in the morning. A soft alert blinked on the screen, followed by words in both alien script and human translation. "One cycle remains. Decision must be made by station sunrise." The human read it twice, then leaned back in his chair. One day left, that was all. He glanced over his shoulder, where the girl was gently folding small pieces of cloth-hulled rags she had turned into cleaner pads for the ship. She had done this without asking, just like always, quiet, helpful, calm. She looked up when she noticed his stare. "Is something wrong?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he asked, "Do you regret being here with me?" She tilted her head slightly. "I don't know what life would have been like with anyone else, but I do know this: no one else ever asked if I was okay." He looked down at the message again, rubbing his forehead. There was no easy answer. If he said yes and accepted her, they would be bound not by love, not by marriage, but by an ancient law that couldn't be broken. She would be part of his crew, his family, his name. If he said no, she would be marked forever as rejected, discarded, and would likely live her life in exile, or worse, be hunted by those who saw her as weak. He wanted to scream that it wasn't fair, because it wasn't. But space didn't care about fairness. Only choices later that day as he walked the market. For fuel cells, he heard them talking again. Whispers, "Earthman hasn't made the claim. She'll be exiled by morning. Maybe that's for the best. She's not meant for the stars." He ignored them, but inside, a flame was rising. Slow and hot, she had done nothing wrong, and yet they treated her like a leftover scrap. Like something broken, back on the ship, she stood near the window. Watching the stars, she didn't speak, even when he walked in and stood beside her. "You know the deadline's close," he said quietly. "I do," she replied, still looking out at the stars. "I've made peace with whatever comes." He frowned. "Why aren't you angry?" "I was angry once," she said. "A long time ago, when I realized my value would be decided by others. But now, I just want a place to belong." She turned to him. "Even if you say no, I will remember the days you treated me as a person, not property." His throat tightened at her words. Later that evening, he found something buried in his old box of Earth things. A small emblem shaped like a flame with wings. The symbol of his old trade fleet. On Earth, it meant accepted. Not as a lover, not as a servant, but as one of your own. He held it in his hand for a long time, feeling its weight. When he walked back to the engine room, she was kneeling, fixing a loose panel. He stood there, quietly watching her. Until she noticed him, she stood up, wiping her hands on her sleeves. "Do you need something?" He walked forward, opened his palm, and held out the emblem. She froze, staring at it, her lips parting slightly, eyes wide. "This means you've decided," she whispered. He nodded. "I'm not accepting you because of tradition or pressure," he said. "I'm doing it because you've already proven who you are, not by what you say, but by what you do." She didn't take the emblem immediately. "Are you sure?" He looked her in the eyes. "You've already saved my life, protected this ship, and stood beside me through poison, lies, and threats. What more do I need?" Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for the emblem when her fingers touched it. A soft hum echoed from her wristband. Was an automatic seal. A signal sent to the station council that the acceptance was complete. No one could undo it now. She closed her hand around the emblem and said, "Then I am yours, and you are mine." The words were old, part of the ritual, but they didn't sound robotic. They sounded real. The human smiled. "Good. Now get ready for..." "What?" she asked softly. "For the part they won't expect," he said. "We're going to walk through that council hall together. And you're not going to stand behind me anymore. You're going to walk beside me." She blinked, stunned. "But that's not the way it is now," he said. "Let them whisper all they want. This ship doesn't follow broken rules anymore." As the artificial sun of the station began to rise, casting pale gold light through the windows, the human and the girl stood side by side, and when they stepped off the ship, hand in hand, the guards didn't stop them. The law had been fulfilled. But something more had also begun. Not just a partnership, not just survival, but something stronger: belonging,